welcome back to This Gen. Today we have a super special guest. We have Miss Bailey Anderson here with us. How are you doing today?
I'm so great. How are you doing?
You know what? I've been nervous all day for this. I'm going to be honest. I've been nervous all day for this episode. I don't know. I've just been like jittery and, but we're going to talk. We're going to get into that in a little bit, because if you don't know, our episode today is about mental health. It's titled Fighting Against My Mind. And the series is Voicemail, which is kind of like, unanswered prayers and still just trusting the Lord through all of that, which is really hard.
Yeah.
Just really hard. But before we dive into that, I want, to get to know you a little bit, because I don't know Bailey. I don't know her at all. But I have the honor and the privilege to go to your church every now and then and sit and listen. And Pastor James and Pastor Steph were actually on the podcast last season. And now we got like a little bit of the fruit of that experience here with you and with really Sybil, who's also, coming onto the podcast. So give us a little bit about yourself, Bailey.
Yeah. I'm 25. I work at the church full time. I have 2 cats.
Yeah.
They're great. And I just really love Jesus, and I love doing Jesus things. I love hosting like Bible studies and small groups in my home. Those like the most important things about me.
I love it.
Yeah.
We're just going to dive right
Let's
into
do it. I'm ready.
I'm a little scared. This is a topic that touches home. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm not gonna cry. I already told Bailey this. If I cry, that's the Lord, because but I'm not a crier. But I suffer from mental health. Mm-hmm. I have been diagnosed with ADHD and with anxiety and depression and all of these other things. So for me, this is something that was big, and I have a lot of questions, but I also noticed it in my friendships and trying to navigate that before I knew Christ. And now that I'm like fully walking with Christ, there's just been so much around it. And I was like, what a great time to just sit with people and kind of walk through it together, because I know we all have like kind of crazy questions when it comes to this. So not to put you in the hot seat, but the first question is, what is a misconception that people have with mental health?
Yeah. It's actually so funny that this is the topic. I have a degree in psychology.
No way!
So, like, when you're like, here's what we're talking about, I was like, all right, Lord, he's doing something. But this is, like, the answer to this question, I think, kind of stems from, like, why I even got into that field in the first place. I think for a long time, the misconception in the church was there's no such thing as like, it's like all spiritual warfare, and like anxiety doesn't exist. It's just the enemy trying to fight you. And I think we've kind of like cleared that hurdle of like, it doesn't exist. And I think now we're like acknowledging it a little bit more. But I think now the problem is like, it seems like a lot of times there's this either or mentality where it's like, either I have enough willpower and faith to pray myself through this, or I'll just get medication. And it's like, we can't ever have both whenever you have this conversation. I was like watching TikTok. TikTok. And there was like this Christian influencer, and they were just kind of talking about like, when I have anxiety, like I just try and plead the blood of Jesus over myself and like just write it out. And I was like, that's not in a bad way.
Not in a bad way.
That sounds terrible, because like that is just not, I think, what the Lord means when he says perfect peace that surpasses all understanding will guard your hearts and your mind. And so I would really kind of challenge that and go like, I think that we can have a both and approach. I can rely on Jesus for divine healing and trust that he can deliver me from mental health issues, and I can also trust that he's placed healthcare professionals and psychiatrists and mental health professionals in that field who also love him and want to take care of his people and are being used as vessels by him. Like, I can have both of those things.
Absolutely.
And like, I can trust both of those things. And I think, hot take, I think when we get to a place where it's like, I'm only going to rely on medicine or I'm only going to rely on faith, we start to like actually take Jesus out of it completely, even though we're saying like, oh, I'm having a lot of faith that I'll be healed. Okay, what if God's trying to heal you through a dose of Lexapro, and you like aren't willing to humble yourself enough to go get the diagnosis and get the prescription? And vice versa. Like, what if you're becoming so dependent on medication that like you're not letting God do the divine healing? And I think God works in contrast a lot of times. So most of the time, whatever we're doing, he's going to call us to do whatever we're not comfortable doing. I'm an introvert. I do not public speak, and he has me in a place where I'm speaking weekly to a bunch of high schoolers. I'm on podcasts now. Like, I speak at camp. Like, I do all these kinds of things, and like, definitely not my choice, but I know that he's like calling me into it for a purpose. So yeah, I would really love to see like this kind of both and approach enter that conversation when we as Christians talk about mental health, because I think it just like, it's the whole like, oh, you just don't have enough faith. Like, girl, I've had faith that my anxiety would be healed for about 6 years now, and it's still there. It's still kicking. So does that mean like Jesus loves me less? No, it just means that maybe the route of healing that he's like given me for this moment is to take medication and go to counseling. And like, that doesn't say in 5 years he's not going to divinely heal me. But I think that we just kind of get caught up in like it has to be one or the other, and I don't think that's necessarily true.
No, absolutely. I think for me, like, that's been a big one, you know, like, oh, you just don't have enough faith. Oh, you haven't been praying enough. Oh, like, when I was first, like, there was a season of my life where I stepped away from my faith. I remember somebody told me once, like, I was talking about how I was struggling with something, and they brought up the story of Mary, whenever like she got told, like, the angel came and was like, hey, like, you're gonna have a child, and it's gonna be, you know, the savior, and you're gonna birth this, and that person was like, you know, like, she didn't have anxiety, she didn't do anything, she just like started writing a song for the Lord. And I was like, right, that was her. I fear, I'm telling you right now that I'm having an anxiety attack. Like, I don't know what to do. And so I think it's definitely been like, that was a big barrier of me walking back into my faith, because I was like, these people don't understand what I'm going through. But all of like this week, it's Tuesday, so yesterday and today, I was getting like, I hadn't gotten anxiety attacks for a while, and I've literally had like 2 or 3 these past 2 days, each day. And I was like, I just know that's the enemy, you know, because like, I'm about to talk about this like on a platform that the Lord has blessed. But I think in that, I was starting to go straight to the things that I learned in therapy. I started regulating my body. I started like doing laps, wall sits, you know, trying to keep going, like, doing all of the techniques that we were taught, or I was taught in therapy. But today, as I was like struggling through one, I was like, wait, pause, don't look at your phone, don't change your mind, don't like regulate, like sit in it. And I think that's a big part. I feel like sometimes we get caught up on the negative aspect of mental health. But sometimes, like you said, like, there's things that God wants us to work through. Like, something happened in our life that is triggering anxiety right now. There's something that triggered that trauma response. There's something, you know, and that needs to be healed. And if you're like just trying to numb it out with the medication or with the coping skills that they gave you, versus like sitting in it and being like, okay, God, I've identified now what is causing this. I'm bringing that to you now that I know what it is, because I didn't know what to pray for before.
And part of that is like, you got to go to the Lord and like have that conversation and be vulnerable with him and be vulnerable with his people and work it out. You know?
No, and it's true. Like, at the end of the day, like, the biggest thing, the number one thing you do is take it to the Lord. That's the biggest thing. But you can do that with everything. And I feel like sometimes we miss that, you know? Like, I can take my decision to go to therapy to the Lord. Like, is this what you want me to do? No? Yes, maybe. And then just taking, like, if you feel like the Lord is like, you're running out of options and it is medicine that is, you know, the path that it's being, you're being led to take that to the Lord and be like, hey, Lord, I'm about to take this medicine, but I'm taking it in your name. I know that you're the one that's gonna heal through this medication. My next question for you is, has your mental health ever made it hard for you to obey or trust the Lord?
I wrote yes in all caps to this. Yes.
Tell me
Oh my
about that,
gosh.
Bailey.
Have you ever tried to have faith while you are riddled with anxiety? Are you kidding me?
Like, so hard.
God's like, yeah, just trust me. And I'm like, I can't see where we're going.
Like,
what are you
literally,
talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's definitely something that has tripped me up in the past. Especially like in earlier seasons, like when I hadn't really worked through that with God, and I was just like still kind of pushing it to the side and like, I'll deal with it eventually. Like, I'm fine. I don't need to deal with it. And like God was asking me to make like faith moves and big jumps and leaps and like even just little steps. And like I was so frozen in fear and like analyzing everything to try and find the worst case scenario and prepare for it and like do all these things. And like it was really holding me back. Like it was holding me back from finishing like commitments. It was holding me back from like jumping into a church and getting connected. I lived in Dallas when I was doing college, and it's like being away from everybody I knew for 4 years, like it's hard. And that whole like there was like a whole season of my life where like I just could barely leave my dorm room because I was just like, where am I gonna go? I don't know. You know what I mean? And like just kind of like swallowing this, where like the Lord has commanded us to have godly community, and he's called us to go and serve him in these ways and serve the local church. And like I just couldn't do it because I was so overwhelmed and afraid. So that was something like I really had to work through. And I think the first like big step that I took to kind of break through that was taking the job at the church. And just kind of like, it was funny because it was really just a conversation of like, I texted Pastor Steph like happy birthday or something like that, and she was like, hey, you're gonna be at church on Sunday? And I was like, yes. Why? And so then she like called me in with the Pastor Bunk, who's like our next gen pastor. And like we just kind of sat in the office, and she was like, hey, here's this position, like described it to me and was like, would you want to take it? And gut reaction was like, yes, absolutely. But flesh reaction was, what if I don't know what I'm doing? What if I don't do a good job? What if I had a roommate that I was living with at the time. I love her so much. She's one of my best friends. Like, what if I leave Tamlin and like never get to see, like, it was just like so much. And I was like, girl, please shut up and calm down. Like, and I feel like sometimes even like the Lord tells us that sometimes. He's like, can you just chill? Can you just like relax? I gave the staff Devo this morning, and I literally was like, sometimes I think God looks at us and is like, are you stupid or are you dumb? And like nobody laughed, and I was like, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me.
Because we're so
like,
silly sometimes.
Like
we're
for no reason.
so silly. Like,
and like then I took the job, and I was like, wow, all of the things that I was so scared of literally never happened. So I definitely think that was a tripping point, and like sometimes it still is. It still is difficult to go out of your comfort zone and do things. But I think the main thing with this is like, if it wasn't mental health, it would be something else. There's always something that the enemy or your flesh is going to try and leverage against you to keep you out of the will of the Father. And if it's mental health and struggling with anxiety so that you have a hard time like having faith, it's going to be that. If it's just having a fear of public speaking so that you never get on the pulpit or start that podcast, like it's going to be that. If it's a spirit of disobedience because you don't want to say yes and you want to run away like Jonah did in the Bible, like it's going to be that. And so I think the hard thing is like, yes, absolutely, there are things that keep you from obeying God and doing what he's called you to do, but also it doesn't have to be just mental health to call you into disobedience. And sometimes we're like, oh, it's just my depression. Like, no, girl, you're just lazy. I'm gonna be honest sometimes. Like, and like speaking as someone who has been diagnosed with depression, I'm like, I know it's a real thing, but I think sometimes we're like, oh, I'm just in an episode. And it's like, get out of bed. Like, God's calling you to something greater. And like, there are times that we let our flesh win and we fall into the excuses that, you know, the enemy is trying to convince us of. And it's especially, I think, with our generation, I think there is such a conversation around mental health that it's like a cop out sometimes.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, I'm so depressed and I can't move, or I'm so anxious and I can't do this, and like, oh, I have ADHD, I can't focus, I have ADD, I can't do that, and like it's like all these things, and it's like, hey, like,
Yeah.
just take a second and like really take some time, kind of what you were saying, like sit in that for a second, identify it, because like, is it actually that, or is it just your flesh being uncomfortable and so you're trying to blame it on something? Because I've definitely found myself, I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna have an anxiety attack. I'm like, no girl, your flesh is just uncomfortable and you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Like, point blank period. I was like,
It just becomes so easy. And I, like you said, like I myself have noticed it as well. It's just like, I will just slap it's the depression. Oh, it's the ADHD. Oh, it's this. And just being like, well, I didn't do it because I couldn't. I physically couldn't. Like science said that I couldn't. When we forget that we have power and authority, you know, that the Lord has given us. And there's been days, and I have been struggling to get better at this. But it's like, I can't get out of bed in the morning. My mom knows this. Like I, you know, with the help of like therapy and like, you know, the Lord, I realized that it's like, nope, I have to force myself a little bit. You kind of have to take authority and be like, I'm going to get out of bed. I'm going to put on the clothes and I'm going to go and I'm going to do something. I'm going to, oh my gosh, I'm going to go read my Bible. Like that's the biggest thing. Like I won't get up and out of the bed because I'm like, the depression, I can't. Because I just be like throwing that on to everything. And I stopped singing because of it, because I was like, no, I can't, because it gives me anxiety. Why would I do something that gives me anxiety? And then like, and you know this is the answer. You know the answer is like, the enemy doesn't want you to sing because that's what you're doing to glorify the Lord. So he's gonna make you uncomfortable in that. And you know that subconsciously, but at the same time it's like, you're just like, no, it's the anxiety. Like it's the anxiety. They already told me, they already diagnosed me, so I'm just gonna stick with that answer because that answer seems easier. You know.
And I think it's hard because as Christ followers, like, and like, we have a hard situation because like we're Christ followers in a modern society that is honestly glorifying mental health and like kind of turning it into like, it's almost like the aesthetic now, you know, like everybody has mental health problems, everybody has to go to therapy, and like, I'm not dissing any of those things. Like I said, like I have a degree in psychology, I know it's important. I fully 100% believe that counseling and therapy like help us work through things, but I think sometimes we let trauma and triggers become our God instead of like actually letting God be God, and we go off of what makes us comfortable, what we can do to avoid feeling that way, or, you know, just kind of like leaning into that a little bit more. And like, yeah, God didn't call us to be comfortable, and he didn't call us to, you know, avoid the things that hurt us either. Like he called us to avoid the things that would spiritually harm us. He called us to avoid sin and to avoid, you know, these things that would try and like separate us, but like he didn't ever tell us to not be uncomfortable. And that's something like we talk about a lot at the church, is like, you can't be comfortable and grow at the same time. And sometimes our spiritual growth is stunted and we don't know why. And it's because we're avoiding all of the things that make us uncomfortable and force us to grow. Because when you are uncomfortable and you don't feel like you can do it, that's where you give space to the Lord to be able to come in. And if you never put yourself in a position where you're like, man, I can't do this, like, that is never an opportunity for God to come in, if you're always able to just figure it out. So
that's true. That's good. I think about Inside Out a lot.
Yeah.
Because of like, you know, a little anxiety in there. But I really liked, well, first of all, she gets anxiety, you know, gets a hold of Riley, and she is just not allowing any of the other emotions to come in, right? And so she's blocking this out. And I feel like sometimes that's what we let anxiety do. And also put in there, like, Jesus, like, he can't even get into the control board because you're just letting anxiety run everything. Or insert depression, insert, you know, whatever you're facing with. But at the end of the movie, they kind of gave her some space because she wasn't all bad.
Yeah.
They were like, okay, well, where can we channel your energy?
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, we have a test in Spanish. And she's like, okay, let's use that and prepare Riley for her Spanish test so she can go and study. And so I think that's a positive way to look at it as well.
Yeah.
Because all of these emotions that the Lord has allowed us to feel, like, I had a conversation with a friend, and it was like, God isn't like giving us anxiety. That's not something that he gives us, but like, you know, we have emotions and he gave us those. And so for us to like ignore them would be kind of like dumb, right? Because he gave them to us.
Yeah. And like sometimes anxiety can be positive, you know, like you always hear about like fight or flight. Like if a bear is coming at you, you better be a little bit anxious. But the problem becomes like when that level of anxiety is like over getting on stage and singing, and you're like, I feel like a bear is coming at me.
Yeah. It's like
what do I do? Yes. So I think there is like, that is even like something that you talk about in psychology, is like there is this healthy level that like allows you to like move in moments. And I don't think that we're ever going to be in a place, I'll never be in a place at least, where it's like I'm on this walk with God and on this journey and I never feel fear again.
Yeah.
But I think it is okay to feel a little bit of fear because, you know, you are taking big steps, and like that's part of faith, is doing things scared and with God and going like, God, I don't know what's going to happen, but I trust you more than I fear this problem, and I'm going to keep walking with you anyways.
Yeah. And so I'm going to segue this into our next question, but I'm going to give you the question and then I'm going to say what I was going to say so you can start thinking about it. But the next question is, how do you fight mental battles, both spiritually and practically, right? And I don't want anyone, I want to preface before we keep going, like that anyone who's struggling with it, like we know that it's real. We know that what you're struggling with is like, it's so hard. And it's just as hard as anyone who is struggling with being addicted to alcohol, being addicted to pornography, being addicted to all of these vices. It's something that is physical, like your flesh is physically fighting. Yeah. And it's like, ¿cómo se dice en inglés? Like detrimental? Yeah, it's detrimental to you as a person. And so it's hard. Yeah. Like, I don't want to sit here because I know, I know everyone was like, oh, you're not doing this, like, trust the Lord and stuff like that. And it's like, no, it's okay that you're struggling with this. Like, that's something big that I've heard a lot, like, this past year. Me going through something and at the end of it just being like, it's okay that happened. It's okay that I feel this way. It's okay that this is currently the state of my life right now. But do you want to stay like that? Yes or no? The answer should be no. Right. Nobody wants to stay like that. Nobody wants to feel like a bear is chasing them. Nobody wants to, like, really, 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 truly, nobody wants to cry every day. Nobody wants to really, like, have that pain every day. So what can we do to change that? You know, how can we fight this spiritually and practically? Yeah,
I love that it's both, you know, because I think it is important that there are, again, like we said at the beginning, like there's spiritual things you can do, but also sometimes you do need to go to the counseling and take the medication. And I think that's a little bit, like for me personally, I've been diagnosed with anxiety and depression before, and for both things, I had to go to counseling and I had to take the medication, and I'm off of it now. Praise the Lord. But it did take me a season of like really having to put in the physical side of work as much as the spiritual side. And so I think for like in terms of like practically, physically, what can you do to fight these battles? I think it's important that if you are, you know, experiencing these things, it is important to like maybe find a counselor that you can talk to. You know, like we were saying, like there are Christian counselors out there. There are counselors who are Christians that can, you know, help you walk through these things in a way that glorifies God and, you know, cares for your mental health. So I think that is something, even if like you're on the fence about like medication, everything else, I think counseling is 100% something that is worth doing. The best way that we can give counsel to people and support them and be able to walk people that we're leading or that are around us through these situations is to have walked through them ourselves and to be able to go like, hey, God brought me through that, you know, and have that testimony. So I think counseling is a great way. And like, if you do need to take that step and take medication, I don't think the Lord wants you to have shame over that. You know, I think he wants you to find freedom in the fact that he has blessed healthcare workers with the mind of Christ, to be able to do that. And I think also, and this is kind of both spiritually and practically, be okay with like it being a process. You know, I didn't get over anxiety and depression in a day. You know, it took me a while, and like anxiety still sometimes I have problems with it. And it's okay. It's a process. And I think sometimes we're okay with other parts of our walk being a process. Like, oh, it's a process to learn to trust the Lord. It's a process to, you know, like sanctification is a process, you know, and we talk about that a lot of like, oh, I'm being made like Christ every day, and I'm being made new every day, and I'm picking up my cross daily. And like that kind of looks the same for like these mental battles that you're fighting. Like, you're going to have to pick up your cross daily when it comes to anxiety, and you're going to have to surrender your depression to God daily. And like eventually there will be a season like where you're not going to have to do that, and like he is not going to like have to like come with you on like this journey, and like you're gonna actually have freedom from it. But for seasons, like there are times that every single day I woke up and I had to go like, Lord, I don't have any strength to get out of bed. I don't have any strength to go talk to people, to go to my job, to do this, and like I don't know how I'm gonna do it, so you're gonna have to do it with me. And like just got up and like had to keep doing it. And it's hard, but it is a process. And if you can be okay with the process and doing the process with God, then it turns out to be some of the most beautiful healing testimonies ever. So I think those are things. And then something else I thought of when I read this question, and even like as we're talking right now, on the like thing you sent me, the verse that you'd picked out was Philippians 4:6-7, which is so good. I love it. It talks about, you know, don't worry about anything and pray about everything. And I've heard that verse be weaponized so many times, where it's like, well, the Bible says don't worry about anything, so why are you worried? I'm like, girl, because I'm worried. Like, what do you mean?
My car just broke down.
Yeah, I'm going to be worried. But I think kind of in a way to flip it is that it's not necessarily saying like, don't be worried, point blank period. It's saying like, no, don't be worried and pray without ceasing. When I'm reading this verse, something that the Lord like often reminds me of is like, take the same effort and energy that you're putting into spiraling, freaking out, worrying, the same mind space that you're giving to like, where's my next meal going to come from? Where's my rent going to get paid from? Like, take that space and like give it back to God through prayer. And going back to like, how has he come through for you before? And like, I think that a lot of times our testimonies are really important in these kinds of situations where it's like, man, God, I'm really worried about X, but I've seen you come through this time and this time and this time. And so even though I'm worried about this now, like, thank you, Jesus, that you came through so many times before, and I'm believing that you're going to come through again. In the Passion Translation of that verse, it says to saturate yourself in prayer.
Wow.
And like being saturated means like you're fully like submerged.
Yeah.
Like when you think about a saturated sponge, it's like dripping water, right? And I think when we saturate ourselves in prayer and in the Spirit, there's not as much room for us to spiral, and there's not as much room for us to go down the path of worry or fear or anxiety. And it's really just full of him and full of us being able to focus back to what his heart is and what his mind is and what his provision is and all these things. But it does take the rewiring effort of going like, I'm not going to funnel this energy here. I'm going to funnel it back to praying without ceasing and thanking God and rejoicing in him.
Absolutely. So. No, yeah. And I really love that you said that, like, of being okay and realizing that it really is a process, you know. I've been thinking a lot about how the same thing. I was like, we're so, we find comfort a lot in just being like, oh, like, this is a process. This is a season for this season, except for when it comes to stuff like this, like mental health. I was literally thinking about dyslexia because I also have dyslexia, but like that went away. Like, well, it didn't go away. That was my point. Because dyslexia doesn't go away. Throughout schooling, like, they teach you how to live life with it, and just kind of like succeed with dyslexia, but they have to train you to like read things differently or look at things in a different way. And I was just like, man, that's literally with everything else too. With dyslexia, I learned how to live. With anxiety, I'm gonna learn how to live. And it's just like through letting the Lord, like you said, like, I think Pastor Steph said it literally on Sunday. She was like, as we like are in the wilderness, right, that we aren't going to be comfortable in the wilderness, but we are going to learn to find comfort from the comforter in that wilderness. And so little by little, as you're going through these seasons, like, you're going to find that as you lean on the Lord more, less and less, you're going to wake up, having to pray, God, I can't get up out of bed. Then it'll be like, okay, like, I got out of bed. Now, Lord, I'm struggling right now at work. Can you just help me through this anxiety attack right now through work? And then after that, it's going to be like, it's been 3 months, you know? And then, slowly but surely, like, you're going to find that comfort from the comforter more and more.
Yeah. And like, I think what popped in my head as you were talking is like Paul talking about, like, I have this thorn in my side, and I've prayed and God won't take it away. And I think even like that is a conversation, like going back to the very first question, we go like, I just haven't taken my thoughts captive enough. Like, maybe this is the thorn in your side that's keeping you humble. And like, if you can't get past it, like kind of what we were saying earlier, like if you keep trying to do it on your own and you never let God come in, like you're going to keep going around this mountain until you realize, like, oh wait, God, I need you. Like, I need you to come in. But yeah, that's what I was thinking of, like the thorn in my side, and like how there is always going to be something. There's never going to be a time where our life is like just primo, what I mean?
Just perfect, because we're in a broken world. But what in that same verse that you mentioned, from the notes, we both said, like, you read that verse all the time, you struggle with anxiety. It's like Psalms 23, and it's like this one, like, it says, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition. And this is the part that I had missed. This next part, it says, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your heart and your mind in Christ Jesus. And I like completely missed that Thanksgiving part. And it's just like, being thankful for the blessings, being thankful for being alive, being thankful for how far we've come, how far we are now, for the growth that happened throughout the season. I've been thinking a lot recently about how I really could be dead, if that makes sense. Like, there's so many things that I did, like BC, there's so many things just in life in general, so many bad decisions. I literally, like, could have died. And if I sit back and I think, and I'm just like, oh God, why won't you take this anxiety away? And it's like, well, because that's going to help you in your future. And I need you to stick around, and I need you to stay here and stay firm and learn through this process, because at the end of the day, I have something for you. If not, you could have been gone a long time ago, like, this could have been over a long time ago if there isn't more for you after this, And so just being thankful, like in that instance of just being like, okay, I am having an anxiety attack right now, but I'm taking these thoughts captive by replacing them. And that's the next question. Like, what are 3 ways you've learned to fight against your mind? And it really has just been replacing the lies, because for the most part, our minds like to make up stories. The anxiety becomes a detective. Our brains are such good storytellers. They're such good storytellers. And so being able, and the enemy will use that against us as well, but being able to use the truth, to use the Bible and replace them, and being like, okay, I'll use it. I will give you a real life example. I was having an anxiety attack for no reason before leaving the house to go meet with a friend. There was zero reason. I liked this friend. It doesn't emotionally drain me. Like, it was all good. But out of nowhere, I'm already dressed and my mood just shifts, right? And I'm having an anxiety attack, and I'm like, okay, well, I have to leave and now I'm crying. Like,
Yeah.
you know? And I started to think and I was like, okay, no, I'm thankful, Lord, that you have given me enough money that I'm able to go pump gas before I meet her.
Yeah.
I'm thankful that I have a friend that I'm going to go meet. I'm thankful. And I started replacing, like, I started finding positive things in the situation. Later to realize that, through that, I was more anxious about the fact that I was going to go out with my friend when I've been procrastinating all of these other things that I actually had to be doing. So, like, you may think that they're coming out of nowhere, but once you sit down and you're like I found peace in knowing, like, okay, I'm going to go out with this friend, but I can only be there for 2 hours because I have all these other things to do. And that's what's causing me the anxiety. Yeah. That was a little, I just went off on a tangent.
No,
but,
that was good.
So I named one of the ways, but what are 3 ways that you've learned to fight against your mind?
Yeah. Number 1, and I think probably the most important one, is just going back to God.
Yeah.
Most of what we've talked about this episode is really just like bringing it back to Him. And anytime that I'm in a place where I feel like maybe my anxiety's flaring up, or, I'm just feeling like I feel like I have a depressive episode coming on, or I just feel distracted, or whatever it may be, like going back to the Father and being like, hey, let me come back to you and like be vulnerable with you. And most of the time, I'll give a real life example since you gave me one. There was like a season of my life that was just really hard. My aunt was in the hospital for a long time with, she had cancer, and we were just spending long hours driving back and forth from Houston. I hate being in hospitals. They're just kind of traumatizing.
Yeah, it's a little scary in there.
Yes, like it's very clinical, and like everyone's just like, so is hard. Just doing that, and like I was just in a season of like working a lot and like doing that, trying to balance, like also like she has kids, so I was like trying to help take care of them, and like I was just really like wiped, and I was really frustrated with the Lord, and I was like, man, like this is my aunt who's served you and like who has loved you, and like she's like been in our nursery team at the church for like 28 years. Wow. Like she's very faithful, very committed. She's one of the most loving people I know. She's one of the most like just generous people I know. And it's like I was just already kind of like, hey man, what the heck?
Yeah.
And I was just driving home one night, and like I literally just crashed out in my car. Like I was just like crying, like basically screaming at God and just kind of going off on Him, and like I just don't understand why this is happening. I don't understand why you're letting our family go through this. I don't understand, why my aunt of all people is in the hospital right now. Like she deserves it probably least of anybody I know. And I just kind of like ranted to the Lord for like the full hour and a half drive home from the hospital, and did not stop. My face is like, like when you're crying, like your face is like red and puffy. You can like barely see. I'm like in my driveway at home, and I was just like looking at the front door, and like I'm like,
yeah.
And I just kind of like turned my car off, and I just was like, so there, and now what? And I just kind of sat there, and after sitting there for a few minutes, the Lord was like, why didn't you just bring all of that to me in the first place? And you wouldn't have had to carry it around for so long. I was like, man, like how much extra pain did I cause myself by trying to hold on to this frustration and this worry and this anxiety and guilt? Like how much pain did I cause myself instead of just going straight back to the source in the first place?
Yeah.
Instead of just going straight back to God and being like, hey, I'm really upset. Like He's not afraid of our, like us being upset. He's not afraid of our rage. He's not afraid of our doubts, our fear. Like He's not afraid of any of that.
Yeah.
Like He fully has the bandwidth to handle it, And I was just like holding on to it, and in like the minute I let it all go, I was like, man, I feel so much better. And He's like, yeah, I've been like waiting.
Yeah. And
I think so many times, like we were talking about with counseling earlier, like we're willing to go in counseling and be like, oh, the world is terrible and like whatever. Like when you go back to the Father, it's just like a different level of vulnerability, because it's like you're going back to the one who made your flesh and bone become flesh and bone. And you're going like, it's more than just like God. It's like Abba, Father, Creator. Like I am your creation. I am your daughter. I am your son. I am your servant. And like I'm carrying this, and I don't have the strength to carry it. And he's like, okay, then give it to me and I'll carry it. So I think my first thing would be like, go back to God, because so many times I get so much like relief just off of doing what I was supposed to do in the first place. So that's definitely like my number one foundational thing, is I definitely go back to God first of all. The second thing I wrote it down is community is key. And I mentioned earlier, like, I'm an introvert. I don't like being out and about, and like it really for a long time I got in a place where I was like okay avoiding friendships and okay avoiding all of these conversations and like community, because I was like, oh, I'll just hang out by myself. I'm an introvert. I recharge alone. Like, and I like fell into that trap. And the truth is that a lot of times that's just isolating yourself, and the enemy uses isolation to his advantage so much, because when I was isolating myself is when I would start falling into these, oh, I'm depressed and I can't get out of bed. Oh, now I feel anxious about this thing that I said or whatever. And like I would find myself spiraling a lot more when I was alone for long periods of time than when I like went and connected back with my friends. Like, God called us to community. He didn't call us to be by ourselves the whole time, you know? So I think surrounding yourself with a community that understands you and understands the Lord is so important. And like a lot of times at church, I'm like talking to new people, I'm like, get in a life group. And it's like, it's not because I'm on staff and that's what I'm supposed to say. Like, I really think that being in a relationship with people and being able to go to someone's house and like have a group of people who are going through the same phase of life as you and go like, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not the only person dealing with this. Oh, that crash out I had is totally valid. Somebody else also felt that. So yeah, community is key. And then the last thing I have on here is physically take care of yourself.
Oh my gosh. You're literally calling me out now.
And I put a star underneath it and I said, it's not treating yourself, it's taking care of yourself. Because I think a lot of times, I don't know why I'm giving you all my hot takes today. I think a lot of times what we've turned self-care into as a culture is like treating yourself. And it's like, I'm just going to lounge the day away and like not do anything. And I'm going to bed rot and doom scroll the whole time. And like, that's all I'm going to do. And that's not taking care of yourself. And like, I totally get it. There are days where it's like, we just finished our camp, like our camp season. And like, there was a day, like we did like 21 days in a row or something like that, and like the day after that I was like, I am not going anywhere,
like I'm just laying here.
Yes. And so like I think that there are times where it's like, yes, God called us to rest as well, and he called us to Sabbath and like make sure that we were fully resting. But when it starts to become a habit, I think is when the problem starts, because physically taking care of our body as a temple includes exercising, includes eating fruits and vegetables, includes drinking water and not 60 ounces of cold brew a day, you know. It's me.
I know, but I'm the problem. It's me.
It's me. I'm the problem. I drink a Red Bull for breakfast this morning.
And I don't know why I'm crashing out because I have all this caffeine in me.
Yes. And then we're like, man, I feel so bad. Why do I feel so bad? Because you had 200 milligrams of caffeine and nothing else in your system. Like, what do you mean?
That's a big one. And I'm glad you brought that one up because I had forgotten about that one. And it's true because, like, for example, like, I have not ran in months. And I could tell you 100% when I was running every day, I would run like twice a day sometimes for like 2-3 months in a row. That was the best mental health like I've ever been. That was like peak. I had just come back to Christ. I was running every day. I was eating well because I was running every day, and I was just like, man, I feel great. And it's like, well, duh, you know, your body needs endorphins. Your body, like, you're chemically imbalanced, and ways that you can do that instead of is literally going out for a walk, going out for a run, not eating all of these like chemicals from fast food restaurants.
I keep seeing this thing, and it's like, I worked out and I exercised and I do feel better, and I'm so mad about it. I'm like, that's me. I was like, yes.
Because it's like, you go to therapy, and I'm not gonna lie, like, that's like the first thing that they tell you. They're like, so like, you know, what do you exercise? What are your eating eating habits like? And I was just like, they're bad.
Yeah.
They're bad. I like
not good.
They're not good. And it's like, wow, drinking water, I do need that. And something one of my friends brought up too is just like, like the Lord, there's fast. It's, fasting is biblical and stuff like that. But something we never noticed in the Bible was that like he would call us not to sleep. Right, because he knows the importance of rest and of being like fully functioning, like letting your body like do its thing while you're sleeping. And girl, if I tell you how many, like I get like maybe 4 hours of sleep every night, girl, and then I'm like, why am I crashing out? And it's like, girl, you need to rest, you know? And so all this to say, I'm really glad that you brought that up, because take care of your body, it's important. Take care of your body, it's important. No, but everything that you said was super, super helpful, even for me, like that I'm literally going through this now and I'm already thinking that I'm at the end of it, kind of getting over it. These are good reminders to kind of just like take in and keep in our pocket as we go about it, because like we said, like the main reason this topic is on this episode, this series, is because like it's sometimes unanswered. It's something that kind of lingers, but being able to have these truths and these things that you brought to the conversation are super helpful. So thank you for being here, Miss Bailey. We hope that you had a good time. I don't even know which camera to look at anymore. All of you, we hope that you had a great time today and that it was a blessing for you, and that you're able to join us next week for the next episode. But as always, if you have any questions or comments, or literally have anything, leave them, DM us. You can find us, I'm sure. We are happy to help and answer any questions that you may have. And so we just pray that the Lord blesses you and that this was a blessing for you. We'll see you next week.
Bye.